All right, welcome to the Flare Up Show. This is Chrissy, and the show is hosted by the amazing Clarissa Burton in the Limelight Media. And today I have Sandra Schnakenburg. She is the author of the new book, The Housekeeper's Secret, a memoir. Sandy earned a BS in Finance and International Business at Arizona State University and has an MBA specializing in finance and accounting at the University of Southern California. She left a career in corporate finance in 2010 to study creative nonfiction. She has completed writing courses at Rice University, Writespace, and the Writers University in Houston. When not writing, you will find Sandra enjoying her family, nature, hiking, skiing, biking, cooking, yoga, and walking her dogs. She and her husband, Karl, currently split their time between Houston, Texas, and Park City, Utah. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very, very excited to have you here. So I would love to just start to learn a little bit about you and why the story came from you. Because it is a memoir, but it's not your memoir. It's a memoir of a very special person in your life. Could you give us a little background and context?
Yeah, so it actually is my
Oh,
memoir.
it is. Oh, sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, that's it
It's
is.
your memories of, yes.
It's actually my journey. I was 3.5 when the housekeeper arrived at our house. So it's my journey of of my life with her in it from the time she arrived, all that she did and witnessed and helped me and the family with. And there was a mystery about her during the entire time she was with us. I was so curious. I always asked her questions, but I would actually get reprimanded by my mother. She said we love her. She's good. Do not bother her. She gets angry when you ask her about her past. But
Oh.
on her deathbed, 30 years later, she asked me to write her book that she had always said she would write that nobody would ever believe. And I was like, Lee, you never told me one thing about your past. I don't know anything about what this book is supposed to be about or anything. So I left it alone for a while. I was having twins. I lived in Australia. It kind of 15 years passed. My mom dies. We find Lee's ashes in my mom's closet. And it was like, wow, what about the story? Why don't we reunite her with her husband and son that she said died before she came to our house, that we weren't supposed to talk about them? So I went on a journey looking for their graves, the names she gave me, what anything I could find, and I found nothing. I didn't even find that she was married. It was all fabricated. And lo and behold, I ended up through a very curvy road. I ended up going on an investigative journey and finding her true past, which was she had changed her entire identity to come work for our family, and she changed the story of her past, her birthday, everything. So in the long run, she came to our house to hide out, and she didn't want to be found, and she didn't want to be found out, yet she was the best thing that ever happened to our family. She helped raise all of us, with my mom, and my dad was very difficult man. He was narcissistic, abusive. She was always trying to minimize the effects that it had on us. She was a lovely, lovely woman. She was really close to me, particularly. She asked me to write her book because I was in a car accident when I was 13. And that brought her back to something in her life in the past. The struggle I was having to find myself again and to find my whereabouts was actually, she could identify with that, and she knew what I needed, and nobody else noticed it. Nobody else knew, nobody else understood. They were just worried about it. She survived, but I was really messed up. I have traumatic brain injury,
Yeah.
facial reconstruction, a really difficult time. And anyway, all that, lo and behold, the book basically goes on this investigative journey and finds her past and what happened to her. And so it comes together on how it's like putting two pieces of the puzzle together, her life and my life, and why she put me on this journey, and why she actually landed on our doorstep in 1965.
That's amazing. Was it on purpose that she landed on your doorstep, or was that just a happy accident as two stories collided?
Well, we had several like maids, if you will, or housekeepers that we trialed. And my mom, I was 3.5. So it's
Yeah.
all I remember is they were very mean. There was lots issues. There was lots of issues. They had a big family to care for that were always sick. She was bringing sickness into our home. These are the past housekeepers.
Yeah.
So my mom had gone on her knees as she does with everything, and she prayed real hard for somebody that would be a part of our family, become our family, that didn't have any responsibilities of a family of her own. And that was the maid agency said, I have the perfect person for you. So that was her request. And I don't know if the maid agency helped her fabricate this, that all her family was dead and she had nothing, but it was the maid agency backed her with that story. They guaranteed her, they must have known her enough. And she ended up being the perfect fit for my mom, even though it was all based on fabrication. But there's
Yeah.
sort of a divine working there, you know.
Yes.
It was really amazing because I don't know what we would have done without her.
Yes, you had a very beautiful relationship, from what I've seen, and you speak so highly of her. And obviously, she thought very highly of you to trust her, trust you with her biggest secret and her real self. That's
Mhm.
a lot of trust there.
So I was going
Do
to
you
find
think?
it. Yeah, she didn't know
Yeah.
I was gonna, she knew that I had the curiosity to search, but
Yes.
she trusted that if anybody's gonna figure it out, it's gonna be me, and I'm gonna go after it with perseverance, the same perseverance I went after my wellness after my car accident. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And they're going to hold her in love, right? Whatever that past was going to be, right? That you were going to hold her
Yeah.
in love and do right by her, which is amazing. Do you What do you think Lee would, we can get into the meat and potatoes of the story right away too, but what do you think Lee would think of the book if she were to read it today?
That's a great question. I think she would be so proud. She'd be so happy because the way it accumulated into her truth and the way
Mhm.
how gently we didn't know we knew some of the ugliness she went through, but we knew of it. We didn't know the details, which saved us from having to gruesomely bring that out in the book. It's not about the details.
Yeah.
It's really about how you survive. It's really about how you re like reset and how she found like it's almost like Viktor Frankl's book that was like how you become that person that has an attitude to keep living and and helping others through, and by helping our family she healed her inner self because she was such a delight. She was so happy. She was the happiest one in our family. We were all like beaten down and abused by my dad. We were so
Yeah.
scared, fear. She would jump out of her chair when the Cubs hit a home run. She was a big Cubs fan, and she taught us spirit, joy. There was just this whole elevated vibration around her.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you be willing to share a little bit about what you found? And then what do you think was her secret ingredient to getting past and creating and finding her joy in her life and fulfilling her life's purpose?
I can just tell you, we found a horrific tragedy, and it went on for years. But that's for the book, and I think, I think what she did to get through it, I think there was I mean, she always had St. Jude prayer in her pocket every day of her life. And I know that and I was like, why St. Jude? He's the, saint of hopeless cases. You're not a hopeless case. You're amazing. We're the hopeless case, right? So I was very confused about that. I was also confused on her deathbed when she said to me, I owe your mom everything. She saved my life for having me and being a part of your family. This was the best thing that could ever happen to me. And I was like, what do you mean? You worked for us. You were the best thing that ever happened to us. What do you mean? Thank you, mom. Like, how did she save your life? You came and you took the job. You were like, it wasn't even a job. She was family after a while, you know?
Mhm.
So I think what she did is she found her inner strength after all her suffering. She hit her bottom, no doubt. And then she made a choice. I could live or I could die, and I could live really well. And that's a choice like people from the Holocaust, they take their life. There could be all like these are things that happen with people, whether they have that little seed planted that says, you have a purpose, you have a will, and I have a purpose for you. And I'm going to show you that purpose when you're ready enough to receive it. And I really think that's what her driving force was to keep going and keep smiling, despite all the pain and suffering she had endured. Mhm.
Mhm. It's amazing the capacity for love. It's amazing to see someone that can take something that could take another person down such an ugly road for her to find, beauty and peace and find, love and service to others and vice versa. It's amazing. It's amazing. What was your first reaction as you started to like finally get somewhere and understand where she'd been and what she was able to overcome?
Absolute shock. I mean, when I found out what happened, I think I put the pen down, or I never really picked the pen up before that because I didn't know the story.
Yeah.
But I knew there was a story, something, because something I couldn't find anything. But when I found out, my whole family went into shock, actually. We'd have, meetings, we'd talk. We're like, how did we not know? I mean, my mom never knew, and she wasn't supposed to know. She died right after my mom died. We found those ashes, and that's when we
Yeah.
realized it was like the inciting incident in a book. What triggers everything? So we knew we
Hmm.
had to put the ashes. We're like, well, where do we put them? We'll find the husband and son. Well, that backfired, and we couldn't find anything. So I think the truth is, she was just, she was just a beautiful soul, and she made the best of every day by choice. Even though she could have been poor me, I'm young still, I could still be married. She didn't have anything. She didn't know how to drive. She didn't never left our house
Hmm.
except if we took her to dinner and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes. Um, Now I know through, discovering her story and it being your memoir, what did you have to face in you as you went through this process of looking back through your childhood? Because obviously there was trauma for you as well, not from her, but adjacent to, and one of the reasons why she was so helpful to you back in the day. So did that make it more difficult or did that make it more complex? Like how did that affect you? Did you ever question the decision to write that story?
Absolutely. I'd never wanted to write about my life. But after taking all of writing classes, and they're like, if you're writing a memoir about the housekeeper, you can't write about another person. It's your memoir. You have to write your journey to discover the truth about the other person. And the journey starts when she arrived at our doorstep, which includes my childhood, which ended up, I went on a podcast while I was writing the book, and this lady had me submit a question. My question was, I'm concerned my story is going to be boring. My backstory will be boring, and readers will be, want to just move on and find out what happened to Lee. Turns out it's so the opposite. Like I am getting people like, we want to know more. We want to know more. We can't, so she did tell me that in the podcast. She said, she gave me all this, advice. She just goes, people love human spirit stories. This is an emotional memoir. It's you ride a roller coaster. It's a page turner. It reads like fiction. You get into this eccentric life we had growing up with my father, and the dynamics were so good and so bad. There was so much good and so much bad, and they all were mixed up, and we were all confused about who we were. And when Lee kind of came in our family as an observer, that's when we started seeing, and she'd make subtle, humble comments about thing with her wisdom. She'd drop a line, do these things, and will made me think like, is this normal? Like that this was our normal, and it was
Yes.
so not normal. So now, like I have friends that are like, wow, I had a family like that. People are identifying with that era too, where right after World
Mhm.
War II, fathers were very authoritative and very, they wanted sons, they didn't want daughters, they were domineering, they were verbally abusive, they just had sort of a tight hold on their family and to control whatever they could. And my dad controlled us with money, so we wanted to get away from that control and be
Mhm.
independent. Hmm.
Yes. Yes. And now, today, how does it feel having all this sort of written out and people experiencing your story? How is this experience now for you?
It's amazing the response I'm getting. It really is. I mean, I went through a lot of healing through the process, as you mentioned, and I mean, I can't even you won't even imagine the things I had to do to get to the core of my, you know, um, remove the fear from even having my personal story, my family's personal story in the world. I got to
Mhm.
that point where it was fine. I finally am fine, but what has still didn't know how the world was going to receive it until people started commenting. Every day I wake up with a long texts from friends and distant
Oh,
friends, maybe even strangers in IM. And I just get these warm, wonderful comments. Hmm.
I
A lot of
love.
people ask the questions. My whole high school is having like a book club
Oh, that's
meeting,
so
doing
cool.
questions on their book. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. I love how, like, for me, my thing is wholeness. And I love that this story is such an intermingling. It's such a combination of light and dark, like you said, like there's normal and not normal. And this beautiful woman that came from obviously some very dark, chaotic place came and brought you peace and light and hope. It's just so interesting to me, and it's just such a beautiful way of the just the human experience, right? Because it's not just all good. Life is not a linear journey. It's side quests and challenges and growth and healing and backstepping and forward, and then community involved in all that. So it's really quite an extraordinary experience that you had. And we're so the world should be very grateful that you're sharing it with everybody. So thank you.
Yeah, I think it's bringing up a lot of historical mental illness and historically how they treated people.
Yes.
It brings up a lot of, she was a Creole, half French,
Mhm.
a lot of history there. Her family was one of the wealthiest known families in all of the Creole society.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Museum now on it, and she would never even spoke of that. We never knew. We never knew a lot about her, and because she didn't want us to know anything about her, she
Hmm.
wanted to hide out on her property and not be known and not be found out. She
Hmm.
thought if people were looking for her, there were people looking for her. And they ended their look at the maid agency. They said there is a note in this file that no one is to find her. She's at a family on the north side, and nobody is to be directed to her.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. It's so amazing. Where can people find your book and read the full story?
They can, well, where all books are sold, Amazon, Goodreads. It's being distributed by Simon and Schuster.
Mhm.
It's on Target, BookBug, everything. Yeah. So they can find it anywhere. And I've been doing signings and readings and stuff like that. So it's been really fun to see people's reaction to it because it's a true story. I think truth is something we like, and it's humbling too, as I got real raw in the story on my personal journeys, my biggest struggles in life, and where Lee fit into all that, which was huge for me. So I think our lives have been like in tandem. I was just so blessed to have her
Mhm.
in our family, and but her perseverance, resilience, her survival, and what she had to do ended up being a message for, I think, the world and me, that we are not what happens to us. We are what we do with what happens to us.
Mhm. And
She
this is
is.
oh, so,
Yeah,
sorry, go on. No,
that's
you
good.
go. Okay. I was gonna say I was looking at your website and I saw that you also have sort of embraced this knack of storytelling and are now offering to help other people get their stories out. Could you talk a little bit about that inspiration and the work that you're starting to do as well?
Yeah, a lot of people have approached me that have been to my book events
Mhm.
because I go into the background of the story and how it came to be, and then I do a slideshow, and I do a slideshow on the process of writing a book, being that I left a corporate job and went and learned how to write on my own, which was
Mhm.
I'm not it wasn't easy. There were days I woke up and said, "What am I doing?" And there was many days I quit, and then it was almost like the spirits of my mom and Lee on the other side were just like, they were just haunting me to finish it, and I had to keep picking up the pen again and do it. But yeah, what was the question again?
Just how this has inspired you to help other people share
Yeah,
their
so
stories.
so and at these events, many people come up to me and I would go through the books that I've read, like on writing, and just I have a whole stack of them that I've shown on all my video like presentations. And I
Mhm.
tell them my process and how one of the things you have to know your own brain and how it works and how you process information to know how you're going to outline and process a book. And you have to understand the mechanics of story, arc, You can study the hero's journey, or very, basic stories that always follow the same arc. And that really help you place, everything in, like the outline of how and what order it goes into, and why
Mhm.
there's a revelation at the end. So my memoir is considered a revelation memoir because it's like an aha moment kind of at the end, that you come to a realization of all this came together, full circle.
Mhm. Absolutely. And where can people find you?
They can find me on my website, which is sandraschnakenburg.com. They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Thread, all the social media. Yeah.
Perfect. We'll make sure to have everything in the show notes. And if there's one important lesson or moment that you would love the audience to know about before we wrap up today, what would you love to share?
Yeah, I would just love to share the importance of perseverance and resilience in life and anything, whether it be a project. There's a lot of people out there that want to write a book. And if they really are called to write that book, they need to lean in when it's the most uncomfortable. So get comfortable with the uncomfortable is probably my message today, because that's what did it. At the end of the day, I was so uncomfortable writing about some of my story, and even, feeling guilty about writing Lee's story. Like, this is her story. She should be writing it. But of course, she asked me to write it. I'm honoring her by writing it, but it's still her story. So I was under some pressure to honor that. So yeah, I'd like people to follow their calling and purpose, whatever that is. But whatever that calling is, persevere as much as they can.
Yes, yes, to trust the process.
Yes,
I love
exactly.
it. I love it. And it must feel so good on the other side to have it all out there. And now it seems like it's
Yeah,
a
it does. And
lot of
what feels good is the reception, and the
yes.
so many people are, inspired to write their story now. If I can do it, anybody can. That's what I tell people.
I love that. I love it's such a great lesson now today too, that positivity is just as, if not more contagious than negativity. It's
You
amazing.
grow personally. I mean, I've really had to heal some of my
Yes.
wounds just writing through them. And then you also grow just from the awareness of who you are, how you process information, how you share information, where your heart is. It's all about the heart, at the end of the day.
It all
Yeah.
goes to love. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to meet with you, Sandra. We'll put everything in the show notes. But just thank you again for being here and sharing.
For having me.